Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And we just ran back from the Speed Force to give you a review and recap of The Flash Episode 5, Monster. Be warned, my speedster friends, if you haven't seen tonight's episode, there will be spoilers, so you might want to run back and come back later. The episode starts with Barry living with Cisco, Barry making Cisco a lot of pancakes because he's living there rent-free. Then we finally meet Caitlin Snow's mom, and Caitlin has to freeze her mom's desk to get her mom to pay attention to her, which is probably what most of us have to do to get our moms to pay attention to us. Then we learn more and more about HR from Earth 19. He says, have a sumptuous day, and it's Tom Cavanaugh kind of being goofy. Now, what did you think about the new Harrison Wells, or HR?
Well, I keep wanting to make Dallas jokes like, who's gonna shoot HR? Like, the joke there to me is just really silly. I think the character invites that kind of reaction because you nailed it. He's a total goofball. I appreciate that he's a really strong divergence from the versions of Harrison Wells we've seen so far, but I don't like him as much as Earth 2 Harry Wells.
I am not a fan of him. The only thing I'm really a fan of this new HR is the fact that he's always carrying drumsticks.
Yeah, he's cool.
I like the differences. Like, he doesn't know how to use our keyboards. He talks about, like, one of the most popular movies on his Earth is Murder on the Titanic. And then even the differences, I wrote this down, even the differences between how they say hello and goodbye. Like, when they say see you later, it's until next communion. And then, I don't know, have a sumptuous day. Like, those little differences, I think, are stuff that The Flash, I wish played around more with the multiverse.
I agree.
Which we saw a little bit in last week's episode with the mime and the pirate, and not the pirate, the cowboy, and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really liking HR.
I'm not either, but maybe he won't stick around that long because Harry Wells' characters don't seem to.
Then there's a report of a giant monster hanging out near the harbor, and the special effect doesn't look that great. And then HR comes up with the idea about a carbon fiber rope to take it down. Caitlin gets some more help with their mom, but then Barry convinces Julian Albert that he will give up his lab if he can shadow Julian Albert. Now, I thought this was an interesting conundrum, specifically for the fact that Barry has been all alone in his lab for 2 seasons now.
Yes.
Right? And he comes back from Flashpoint, there's a Draco Malfoy sitting in his lab, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's willing to give up the lab. The lab where he got struck by lightning, where he got his flash powers. He's willing to give it up just for the simple fact, because it's proven fact that Julian Albert is a better CSI than Barry Allen.
And I think it's him too trying to mend bridges. Although if it's your workplace, you can't like give up your station just because the dude across the room from you doesn't like you. So it's a little contrived and it's a little bit silly. But the thing I like about that moment is that you see Barry being the better person. He's being a superhero in his normal life. Exactly. As much as he is when he's the Flash. So I think for Barry, it's a nice character beat.
But let's be honest here, being silly, from day one on The Flash, it's a little silly that there's only one CSI that works for the Central City Police Department, and he has this giant, weird bricked lab.
Maybe Central City's not as big as we think it is.
It's true. It's like Minneapolis. We learn that Caitlin's mom hasn't talked to Caitlin lately, and we learn Caitlin Snow's secret origin, that her dad died, and that her mom never talked to her again. Julian reveals his details and feelings that the police are becoming lazy because of the Flash, eating more donuts on the taxpayers' dime. And then the monster appears again. Barry tries to split up to become the Flash, and it's revealed that Julian has a gun because he had 4 years in the army. The monster disappears, and then we get to see Nigel locking Caitlin up, trying to steal Caitlin's powers to take over her mom. Her mom eventually rescues her, and then it leads to this weird scene. All right, let's talk about this.
Okay.
All right. So Caitlin is there with her mom. Her mom is an expert scientist, a genius scientist. Her mom is testing her abilities. She's come to her mom for help.
Yes.
She's like, hey mom, I don't want these powers anymore. Get rid of these powers. And then out of nowhere, Nigel the assistant's like, yo, I'm gonna take your powers and I'm gonna take over your mom because your mom's it just made no sense at all. Was this much of a left turn for you as it was for me?
It was. It's totally unearned the entire time. Nigel's actually kind of an interesting character. The actor gives a really, really great performance.
He's very sweet at the beginning.
He is, and I was like, I could get on board like if he became a supporting Caitlin Snow-centric figure.
Oh, he should have.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And then they just like, nope, you're a bad guy.
He's the bad guy.
What?
Well, if you look at this episode overall, I think they decided that not only did they have to have Barry fight a threat, they had to have Caitlin fight a threat as well. And I think it was a mistake.
I think it was too, because the hero's journey, the origin story, self-discovery is interesting enough. That's why we keep reading superhero origin stories. And because we're doing Caitlin's story on a slower burn as opposed to in a one-episode arc, it's the best Caitlin's ever been, in my opinion. It's some very interesting storytelling. She's got some great scenes. I don't need her to have immediate adversary. Like, she doesn't need a rogues gallery. She can share with Barry. It'll be fine.
At the base point of it, it just didn't make his plan didn't make sense. And for him to be a scientist again, this is my biggest complaint with The Flash. I love the show to death, but sometimes the scientists who are supposed to be the smartest scientists in the world, sometimes the multiverse on the show, act real dumb. We eventually get a quick reveal that the monster feeds off electricity, just like Electric Superman. And then we learn the secret origin of Julian, that Julian is mad at the Metas because, one, he didn't get powers, and two, he thinks that all the Metas squander their powers. Now, I think that was a very interesting origin. I like that he's kind of just pissy at the Metas because he's like, yo, if I had your powers, Flash, I could, like, feed the entire world. I wouldn't just be, like, stopping robberies. I would be doing stuff like that. You know, I will say that I thought this was a strong scene. I thought that, what's Draco Malfoy's name?
Tom Felton.
I thought Tom Felton did a hell of a job. And you know what? I thought that it endeared him to me a little bit more. Yeah, because I kind of agree with him. And he brings a very logical point, which he should be logical. He's a scientist.
I think that's interesting because I have, like, the opposite feelings about it. For me, this is the episode of, like, strange left turns. Like, suddenly he has army training, which we've never mentioned, we've never showed. Yep. It really just comes out of nowhere.
That was weird.
And then on top of that, he's like, I don't like the Flash because I didn't get to be the Flash. Like, bro, come on.
But that's not where he ended it. He didn't.
It's not.
He didn't end it just because, like, oh, I didn't get powers. No. It's there, but he added the element that he thinks that, like, yeah, them just stopping crimes and robbing places is
not enough.
Is stupid.
I just think the way the reveal was handled, didn't match they could have started it in a more interesting, intelligent way.
I will totally concede that point. But like I said, I thought it was very interesting because if superheroes existed in our real world, we would think that.
People would. We would have people criticizing it.
Yeah, we would. I mean, why wouldn't a superhero go work for the United Nations and try to feed all of Africa? Why not?
Because some people aren't nice.
Yep, and some men just want to watch the world burn.
Exactly.
We eventually get the secret reveal of what HR is up to when Cisco goes through his stuff, and we find out that HR is actually an author writing a book called The Adventure of H.R. Wells. So there you go, kids. Whenever you can't come up with a book idea, just travel throughout the multiverse. The monster shows up, and the Flash tries to do an Empire Strikes Back, running the rope around his legs, but it doesn't quite work because we find out the monster is a hologram. We learn that H.R. Wells is just an idea man. He's an engineer. He's the face. He's the inspiration, and he's come to this to write a book and to help these people. And they're like, all right, we're only going to give you a couple of weeks. Now, the reveal that H.R. Wells, he could be, that's his nickname. H.R. Wells is just an idea man. What did you think about this? Also, let's talk a little bit about this episode's about finding out that people aren't who they seem.
Yes.
So Julian's like that, Nigel, Mom, the kid with the hologram, and H.R. Wells. Nobody's what they are.
I appreciate the metatextual idea of that. I think a lot of it could have been handled better.
Okay.
And in particular with the hologram, we had a hologram in the last episode.
We did. We had the Captain Cold hologram. Literally last episode.
It seems to me like someone was like, man, that was real cool. Let's do that. Let's do that, but with Godzilla.
But with Godzilla.
I think it was one of the Flash's sillier ideas. But whatever, the metatextual idea behind it is really powerful.
The scene with Joe West and the kid, though, is really good.
Any dad cop moment, any Jesse L. Martin moment, I am totally in for. I think the idea that H.R. Wells, that this particularly goofy brand of Harry Wells is an idea man, is a really great idea, and it's a nice call back to the idea that maybe he's inspired by H.G. Wells, who's obviously a very famous author. I like that detail, and I think the fact that they say on screen, like, oh, you only have a couple weeks, he's not making it to the end of the season.
Oh, you don't think so?
I think he's gone at the crossover.
Interesting. We got a final scene where Julian reveals that Barry is not going to be kicked out of his lab, and then Barry's like, hey, Julian, you want to go get a drink and talk about Harry Potter? And Julian's like, yeah, let's do that. Finally, we learn from Caitlin. Caitlin's mom sends her a message that says, the more that Caitlin uses her powers, the more difficult it's going to be to reverse them. And then Caitlin freezes her computer. All right, so that's the episode. So let's get into the rating of this episode of The Flash, episode 5, Monster. Ashley, what rating out of 1 to 5 lightning bolts would you give this episode of The Flash?
This is a little tough for me because I really want half a lightning bolt, but we don't do that here on this show.
Nope.
So I am going to give it 2 lightning bolts.
Ooh, okay.
Because I think it was a good idea that was pretty not greatly executed.
Got it.
And I think that because so much of the reveals were silly and didn't stick the landing, I don't think it's one of the better episodes of this season.
Interesting. I would give this a rating of 3. Because I don't think that this was a terrible episode. This was not Magenta. I will give it, I thought there were a lot of good character beats and a lot of good character reveals, and I appreciate it. And there were a couple, the problem I felt was not the overall episode, it was specific scenes.
Yeah.
Like there were specific scenes with Nigel especially that just didn't work. But overall, I thought it was fine. The holographic monster probably should have changed to something better a couple drafts down the road. I get it, television moves really fast, but you are right on the money that we just did a hologram last week. Why are we repeating a hologram? Hence my reason to give it 3 lightning bolts. Now here's our part where we predict what's going to happen in the future of The Flash based on tonight's episode. Ashley, throw out some crazy scientific theories.
All right, I have another Caitlin Snow-centric prediction.
Okay.
So we did see her story really moving forward in probably one of the most powerful ways that we've seen since her character started.
Sure.
I think that because we can definitely see that we're going to get Killer Frost or maybe Frost, depending on if she's going to be.
Well, we're gonna have an episode titled Killer Frost before the end of the year.
Yes. I think that we are setting Nigel up to be, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, to be the first of her specific rogues or enemies. I think we're going to see him try to replicate her power or an accident similar to her, and he's going to wind up fighting her. But maybe it'll be fire-based because they like to make opposites fight each other.
Interesting.
And what do you think is going to be coming up on The Flash?
I have some weird theories.
Okay.
All right. We met a weird Harrison Wells. We met H.R. Wells. He's an idea man. He talks about his team and that he found a Star Labs with the other person. I think he is not the last person from Earth 19 that we are going to meet.
Oh.
I think we are going to meet his partner. I think we are going to see his partner. I think we might see a couple enemies come from Earth 19. Something weird. I think Earth 19 is going to be something. H.R. Wells being goofy is going to be something. I don't think they just dropped him in our lap so that Tom Cavanaugh could be goofy and hold drumsticks. I think there's a plot reason. And the plot reason, I think, is because I think his partner is going to show up from Earth 19 being like, HR, you got to come back to my Earth. I think his partner's Eobard Thawne of Earth 19.
Like good guy Eobard Thawne?
Or something. I think we are going to see Matt Lesher show up as the Eobard Thawne of Earth 19, and that is going to be his partner. Now, whether he is going to be malicious or evil, I don't know. I kind of think it would be interesting if he was goofy as well, and he is killed by Reverse Flash, the Earth 1 Eobard Thawne. I don't know, but I just have a feeling that Eobard Thawne is going to show up. A good Eobard Thawne is going to show up before the end of the season.
That'd be cool. I'd really like to see that.
And we like Matt Lasher, so keep it coming. So one of my favorite parts of the episode was all the fake movie titles that H.R. Wells said to us during the episode. So guys, I want you to go down to the comments, and I want you to tell me, what was your favorite fake movie title that H.R. Wells told us?
Ooh, Star Wars Revenge of the Jar Jar.
Revenge of the Jar Jar? What are you talking about?
It's the most famous science fiction movie from Earth 19. I really like it.
Well, if you want to learn more about Ashley, like she likes the movies of Earth 19, don't forget to click subscribe because every single week we're going to have a Flash recap show for you.
Ooh, or what about Draco Malfoy and the Philosopher's Stone?
I've never even heard of that movie. I don't even know what you're talking about. But if you want to know what we're talking about, guys, head on over to Patreon and click subscribe and all that other stuff. You know, you can click subscribe over at Patreon. You get all kinds of exclusive stuff, and you get to learn all kinds of exclusive facts about Ashley.
There's also Star Trek, The Revenge of the Tribbles.
Why are we talking about Earth 19 movies?
Because I'm actually A.V. Robinson of Earth 19.